Do you feel at ease? Do you feel safe? Do you feel less safe because now there's no one in custody right now?
I mean, obviously less safe knowing there's no one in custody.
Some uncertainty in the area of what things are happening. Hopefully they resolve it as soon as possible.
If the guy is smart, he's hiding. He's not going to come out, and maybe there's no evidence. So I don't know.
A campus on edge and a community waiting for answers as the manhunt for the Brown University gunman enters day 4 now. I'm Sandra Smith in New York. John, good to be with you.
Good to be with you as well, Sandra. New video coming out, as you saw there on the screen. I'm John Roberts in Washington, and this is America Reports. Right now, police chasing down a new lead, releasing new photographs and surveillance video. The FBI also offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the suspect accused of killing 2 students and injuring 9 others at Brown University on Saturday.
So investigators describing him as 5 feet 8 inches tall with a stocky build and say he was in the area just hours before the deadly attack. Officials insisting they are making steady progress. But 3 days later, the killer remains on the loose.
Fox News team coverage kicks off now with Paul Morrow on deck. But first to our national correspondent, Brian Yanis. He's got the latest for us live from Providence. Brian.
John, good afternoon. Well, these are the clearest pictures yet of the primary person of interest that they are looking for, and they are asking the public for help in identifying him. Let's put up the surveillance video showing folks what we have been showing all day here. The man wearing a dark beanie, a surgical mask over his face, and a dark two-tone jacket. He's seen walking. At one point, he stops, turns around, and looks towards a sign. Police don't know what he was doing, but we do know that these 3 new surveillance videos were captured at 2 p.m. Saturday, just 2 hours before the shooting, right near the engineering and physics building where the gunman murdered 2 students and wounded 9 others. Now, using video timestamps and reported locations, this map gives us an idea of the path the potential gunman took in the residential area, a block or 2 away from the engineering building. At 2:08, he was seen at the front of the Rhode Island Historical Society, then seen again at 2:18, 2:52, and 2:53, walking west on Manning Street. Then at about 4:05, the shots are fired at the engineering building, and at 4:06, a surveillance camera captures the person of interest walking away from the building.
It's critical that we reconstruct this man's movements, both before and afterwards. My hope is that we will eventually have that pattern. But when you ask staff why are they looking in particular areas, where he was and what his movements are developing as we obtain additional evidence.
Now, there are a lot of questions as to why more cameras at Brown University did not capture the gunman on campus. One of those reasons could be because the shooter never had to walk through the main campus to get to the engineering and physics building, which is located on the edge of campus near a residential area. Meanwhile, we saw 24 FBI agents searching for evidence in the snow, bushes, shrubs, garbage cans yesterday, picking up everything from a glove to an empty alcohol bottle, anything that could maybe have the DNA of the gunman. These grid searches were taking place right outside the building and near the homes and the businesses that were across the street. We spoke to a recent Brown graduate who was visiting a friend inside that building just 30 minutes before the shooting.
I think the main thing is just the lack of communication. I think for me that's the main thing. For instance, the only reason I even knew there was a shooting is because my friend got the alert. I wouldn't have known. So I think that's my main point of concern.
The Brown University alert system, a siren that goes off on 3 main speakers, did not go off during the shooting. It also has a voice message. That is also part of the investigation. John.
All right, Brian Yanis for us. Brian, thank you so much for the update. Sandra?
Okay, so let's bring in Paul Morrow, retired NYPD inspector, attorney, and Fox News contributor. Paul, welcome to you. We are just hoping that they can find this suspect still on the loose at this hour. I know you've got some breaking news for us.
Well, first of all, let me just say this. You know, I'm getting echoes of the Koberger case, where the received wisdom was that the cops are not up to the task. They've completely blown it. 6 weeks we heard that, and some of us were pushing back against that, saying give them some time, that's how investigations go. Then they solved it. Everybody said what great police work, and everybody forgets about the fact that for 6 weeks they took all kinds of incoming. I'm saying that because there is a lot of pejorative out there right now against the investigative team. I would say this, they haven't been great on the messaging. I would look to the politicians for that. The mayor very clearly wants to get his FaceTime. Then you get the governor. Get one politician out there to talk real quickly about what they're doing in terms of the politics of it. Get out of the way. Let the AG, let the cops handle it. That's why the messaging is not very, very secure. On the other hand, too, it's Providence. They're not used to talking to the world like you see in New York, Chicago, places like that. But time to get that together. Secondly, the lead. Everybody is all over them about this lead that washed out. Now, look, they did probably get out a little bit ahead of their skis. Elements of the task force talked about the fact we got them. It turns out they don't have them. But you got to remember something. This is how it always goes in difficult investigations. It's never a straight line. You go down the leads that you think are good. Sometimes they wash out, and then you go back to square one. And that's how it is. The difference is the public is seeing how the sausage is made in this instance because there's so much attention on it. Now, here's how it went. And this I'm not sure is out there. Some of it's out. They go to the hotel. Apparently, they got a lead somehow or other relative to the hotel. I think from what I'm hearing is that somebody checked in, fit the height and weight, was all in black. I got a strange sniff off of this. It was one of the hundreds of leads that got called in. They go out. Part of the team goes out there in the middle of the night and bangs on this kid's door, and they get him out. They find 2 guns. This is when it starts to look very, very good. He seems to match the height. I don't know about the weight. I haven't gotten that information, but was dressed all in black. There's 2 guns. It starts to look very good. We got information about they did geofencing, which is following the phone electronically. I don't believe that was done. I think that was, again, a bad leak. That's not what the task force said. But here's, I think, the salient piece and why it washed out. They said, well, you know, the evidence didn't match the crime scene. It's the ballistics. They did the guns that were in the room. The guns in the room didn't match to the ballistics that they found at the scene. So that washes out those guns right there. So then you could say, well, maybe he had another gun. He got rid of it en route. You got to see if there was another thing there going on, et cetera. But here's the dispositive piece. They did the room. That is to say, they looked at the video in the hallway of the hotel, and then you would have done the key card in the hotel. And the kid, which is out, the kid said, I never left the room. I've been in the room since yesterday. It couldn't have been me when they didn't. Short of being Spider-Man and climbing out the window, he doesn't leave the room. So as a result, now you have to wash him out. So when people say things like, I don't believe in coincidences, they've never done investigations. There are always coincidences.
Well, there's no doubt there's a lot to this, including the new video of the suspect canvassing the area. Paul, I want you to take us through what we're seeing here. Of course, there's been complaints. Is this all we've got? You know, but there's got to be, there's got to be cameras on all these buildings and surrounding house, structures and houses. But anyway, this is the new surveillance video. This is the Colonel Oscar Perez Jr., Chief of Police, on what he thinks the suspect was doing in the new surveillance video that we can now see.
It was a few hours before, and I'll tell you that at this point, that's all we have. So it was a few hours before what he was doing. We'll be able to find out further once we come to investigate.
Okay, so now we have this new video of law enforcement walking where the suspect was in that new surveillance video. I mean, this is the police work. This is the detective work. This is where we are.
Exactly. This is, as I said earlier, how the sausage is made. Let me tease some of this out. First of all, people are saying, number one, why don't we have better video? The police can only work off of the video that they have. And as Brian Yennis's excellent reporting determined, this building is on the edge of a residential area. It's not in the centralized aspect of Brown. So what are they dependent upon? Residential video. So why did they have a couple of days delay before they got the video we're seeing now? People weren't home. It's a wealthy area, if you notice. Look at these houses, right? People were away for the weekend. You got to get in touch with people. It turns out you got to talk to the neighbors.
Beautiful old historic homes, by the way.
They went to Florida for the weekend. They're not around. So that's how you get the video. That's the thing they're doing. What we're not focusing on that I think is important, that the police are being called in now to clean this up. The point of failure is Brown security. I don't understand why we're not hearing about the fact. No ingress and egress video, an enormous event going on a Saturday on campus, no security guard, the door propped open. Head of campus police has never done any police work other than campus policing. Brown has stuff to answer for here.
Yeah, and they're saying that people are safe to walk around, but be vigilant. And we are hearing that they have a big police presence out, as one would expect.
Listen,
right
they're gonna get them. I know that's an unpopular opinion right now. They're doing everything they can. Give them some time.
All right, that's great to hear. Paul, thank you very much.
All right, former FBI Special Agent Stuart Kaplan joins me now. Stuart, great to have you. Always good to see you. Thank you for joining us. So what do you think about this right now, this manhunt, and how it's all going?
Good afternoon, Martha. Look, early mistakes on or during an investigation can have a cascading impact on the progress of trying to apprehend this person. And the biggest blunder, quite frankly, from what I've heard, is the lack of containment of the eyewitnesses, the students that were in the classroom. The witnesses, once the shooting stopped, they scattered. Law enforcement failed to contain them, and that became a huge blunder. Keep in mind, we're looking at a photograph that now is more than 72 hours old. The likelihood of this individual wearing the same clothing obviously is slim to none, and so it presents a huge lift for law enforcement to try to identify this individual.
Okay, Stuart, we know you're on it, and we'll have you back as we get more. Thank you very much. Great to see you.
All right, Sandra, let's bring in former FBI Special Agent Nicole Parker, a Fox News contributor. It would seem, Nicole, that after having what they believe was a promising lead over the weekend, they're back to square one.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but that does happen in investigations. But one thing I would like to point out is that there is a $50,000 cash reward for the identification, the arrest, and the conviction of the shooter. And right now, they really seem to be relying on the public's assistance. There was a delay in getting these photos out. They were, I've heard a lot of explanations as far as, well, they were waiting until Monday when businesses were more open and canvassing the neighborhoods, getting Ring doorbell camera information and footage. And it will be up to the public. I believe in this investigation, I have always said human intelligence is still the most powerful, in my opinion. Someone knows the shooter and they need to turn them in. But what I find very puzzling and alarming is I myself went in and I looked at the 2025 annual security report for Brown University, and I did a keyword search. It's 170 pages. On one page did I see the word CCTV. I looked up other keyword searches and was baffled that there really wasn't much in there. But what was even more befuddling to me is that around January of 2025, Brown University was most concerned about President Trump's executive orders to take away the DEI initiatives. And they were running at a $46 million deficit. And they were concerned at this time, and they were even slashing expenditures from other areas so that they could meet their diversity programs. And as someone that comes from law enforcement, safety is number one. And I believe that all students on that campus would say that they would agree that they would feel more comfortable being safe than having a diverse campus on that day. And it's absolutely tragic. And I think it should be looked into. What was their security posture leading up to this? All of the doors were to be locked. I did a search on that as well. With key lock cards, they're supposed to be locked at night. The campus is supposed to be locked at night and on weekends. And I do think that there is some explaining to do. But ultimately, we do know that the responsibility lies with the shooter. I will never take that away. But this is a wake-up call to all universities. Check your campuses and make sure that you are keeping your students safe first and foremost.
We heard that, well, there's very little CCTV coverage in that building because it's an old building. Well, memo to Brown University, you can retrofit a building. So there's the idea of security there at Brown University, but then there's this idea of, is the community safe? Listen to what the mayor said the other day.
Ever since the initial call, now a day and a half ago, we have not received any credible or specific threats to the Providence community. And so the status of safety in our community remains unchanged.
Okay, they said that 2 days ago. Now they're saying, oh, bulletin, by the way, there is a person on the loose. He's considered armed and dangerous. What does that say about safety in the community?
Definitely not comforting. But again, I understand that they have a stronger police presence. And again, I am one that always says we cannot let evil win. We cannot live in fear. You must live life fearlessly, but live with caution. Keep your head on a swivel and be smart and be wise. But this is very, very concerning to the community. And this person needs to be brought into custody as soon as possible for obvious reasons. We need everyone, all hands on deck. The public is going to need to provide their assistance by providing any tips that they can to the FBI. I know that the FBI is working tirelessly. This is not even their investigation, but the lab at Quantico is reconstructing the trajectory of rounds to work the crime scene. Everyone is all hands on deck. And, the person of interest here in the video is well covered up, even has his face covered. But there's some pretty unique things about his persona that I think somebody probably knows him and might be able to report it in. Nicole, good to catch up with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks. A little bit of new information, but not a ton.
What do you think? Because
Well, I just want
it seems like there's a lot more information swirling around.
I want to complete my thought on the new signer, who I believe is worse than the old one. She scares me. Her face reminds me of when I used to do cocaine. When you can't control any of your facial muscles. She was just frightening to me. I was shocked that the president of Brown wasn't aware of these web pages. It's a Brown University website that went down. It's kind of been the story this afternoon. I don't know. I think that's kind of a big deal. But I want to return to my point that Gutfeld's law, all information can be distilled to 5% of its volume. You watch stuff like this and you realize that it's two facts that are repeated in a dozen different ways. And the repetition is maddening, but it's also incentivized because everybody wants their turn at the podium. Everybody has something they want to get out of this, whether they're a reporter or a mayor or an AG. And the medium itself demands that you inflate the story to fit the container, which is, the news.
I can't remember who said it, but it was, everything's been said, but not everybody has said it.
I think that was not Jesse Waters.
It's not Jesse Waters, but let's get Jesse Waters' take.
Okay, so we still don't know what this guy yelled. We're hearing multiple reports about him yelling something. Why can't we hear from any of these eyewitnesses? I've only heard one eyewitness say the guy had a long gun. And so he also said he looked the shooter directly in the eye, and then the shooter didn't kill him. Why didn't the shooter shoot the guy if this was a random attack? He's just spraying bullets around. Why didn't he shoot the guy he came eye to eye with? That's weird. We're also hearing interesting reports that the vice president of the Brown Republicans might have been shot multiple times. We still don't understand if this was a targeted shooting, and they're not giving us any clue about that. We also need to know, do you need to swipe a card before you get into this building? We're hearing you have to swipe cards. So was this guy a student? Did he have access to the building? Is he an international student? How many international students do they have at Brown University? It's been a very thorny issue, the issue of the Palestinian situation. There's been a lot of action, a lot of protests at Brown University. Does that concern them? Is there an international angle that they're concerned about? Still don't know about that. How about the one reporter who asks, well, we talked to a bunch of the residents and businesses that are a block away, and they say the cops never came to ask them for the Ring camera videos until this morning. So 4 days later, we're still not really flooding the zone. We're not flooding it with police. We're not flooding it with information. And the president of the university, I mean, everybody's talking about these websites being taken down.
Right.
And she has no idea. Right afterwards, in the aftermath, immediately, she had no idea what the class was. Right. How is she, the leader of the school, so unaware about the basics of this case? It's just frustrating.
It's almost as if they want to be unaware. Also, if they're asking the public to help, Harold, I don't understand why they are hiding what was reportedly yelled by the shooter, because presumably, maybe, possibly, that actually would help you figure out who it was.
Look, this was slightly better than yesterday, but not a whole lot. I'd say a couple of things. The videos, to your point, then the videos are incredibly important. Remember, it was Tyler Robinson's parents, the murderer of, I'm not gonna, I know he's on trial here, but the murderer of Charlie Kirk, who recognized his movements. He had a mask on and said that could be our son. And the father communicated with the pastor to get this young man to commit. So for the fact that they were not to admit to that it was him, the fact that there was not a walkthrough, that we did the walkthrough of the video was really amazing to me. I was surprised that nobody in the press, I listened to the last fellow in the press who was making a statement. The press, please don't make statements, just ask the questions. I would have wanted to know the trains, the buses, the airports. And we had the murder here, not just a block, 2 or 3 blocks from here at Fox of the healthcare executive by Luigi Mangione. There were all kinds of efforts by our committee. We have the best police force in the country. It took a few days to find him. Commissioner Tisch shut down the bus stations, the train stations, the airports. We knew everything. It's amazing that no one asked, have you all taken that picture right there and run AI to see within a 50-mile radius of Providence if any student looks like that with any ID? If he would have to swipe to get on campus, is there reciprocity with these universities? I just don't know what the press is asking and why they're not asking any of these questions. Where's the weapon? No one's talked about the weapon. Do we believe he's holding the weapon there? I'm not an expert in law enforcement. You would think that those on the ground might be, and if they're not, they would bring people in that could help them analyze this kind of video, these kinds of pictures. But I do think the most important thing they did was to run that video over and over and over and over again. And hopefully someone sees this and recognizes this person as a student, as a family member, something along the lines that will be able to help bring some sort of end to this. And finally, the president of the university, who I don't know, I was surprised she didn't know the answer to the question. It doesn't seem like there's a coordination that there should be. If he's used the phone anytime, any communication, why not the cell towers? Why aren't we finding out if there was any bounce off of anything? Because it looks like the guy was walking around the neighborhood before and afterwards. And maybe he didn't use the phone, but these are the kinds of questions I would imagine the press the press would be asking. I mean, I'm not a law enforcement official, but I went to law school. These are just the questions you should be asking, and I hope that at some point it helps us find this guy, because it had to be scary being in that community right now.
And during the press conference, Kennedy, the Attorney General of Rhode Island kept jumping in, and I presume it's because he thinks, like, I'm going to have to try this case, and I have to make sure that we are on the up and up on all of these things.
Well, yeah, and it seems as though he's surrounded by incompetent people who are going to do something wrong, and one of the missteps is going to compromise either the charging or the execution of the investigation, which so far has been very lackluster, because on Brown, as you know, there are over 800 cameras there, which is a lot for any university, and all of the footage that they provided is from ring cams, from Nest cams, from residences around the school. So they're not giving us anything from within the school, which is very, very well surveilled. So that's incredibly unusual. But in terms of the particulars, if there was a student who was targeted during this class, would it have been known who was going to be there? It sounded like it was more of an informal study group,
right,
and not the regular time for the class to be meeting, because, we've all been through finals. That you cram stuff in as much as possible right before finals week, and it felt like that's what this was. So how would the shooter have known who was inside the classroom unless they had some sort of intimate information about a person that they were targeting? And they were very quick on Sunday night to release the identity of, this person of interest. And, they didn't have a problem there. And they said that they were using geolocation that Akash Patel had been talking about. So if you did, in fact, have someone who was clearly casing and you knew the time and you knew the exact place, then why can't you triangulate that? It just goes to show that there are a number of elements that other investigations have had, and they've had more successful, quicker outcomes than what we're seeing here. And that's what is leading to the anxiety. And I don't think it's particularly helpful that the president of the university is talking about everyone's feelings when you still have victims who are in hospital beds in critical condition. And you've got two students who have been murdered. And we're talking about practice? You're talking about people's feelings? I think that they absolutely need to shore up some ends here and maybe get other people in there to talk to the press, because they're not doing a great job of instilling confidence.
Police have released new security footage of the suspect in the mass shooting at Brown University. So now we get to see a little bit more. At least we can see his face, although he's wearing a mask, walking around in dark clothing around that campus just hours before the killing began. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. The FBI put out this poster seeking information on the man you just saw in that new video. It describes him as being 5'8", stocky, armed, and dangerous. Well, we know that part. Offering a $50,000 reward at this point for any information that could lead to his arrest and conviction. Providence, Rhode Island's police chief.
We're going to continue to collect evidence, and if it leads us to something to that nature that's going to be extremely helpful for us to identify somebody, we'll be the first ones to put it up. I'll tell you that what I can tell you is that this individual definitely targeted Brown University.
Tributes are pouring in for the two students who died in the shooting. Ella Cook, just 19 years old, and the vice president of the school's college Republicans. Muhammad Aziz Omer Zadaf was also 18. and had immigrated to the United States from Uzbekistan. He had dreams of becoming a neurosurgeon. The Rhode Island delegation held a moment of silence on the House floor for both of them last night. Former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker is coming up in focus to be with me and break all this down. Let's start with national correspondent Brian Yennis, who's in Providence. Brian.
Well, investigators say they still don't know why this gunman chose this particular classroom in the engineering and physics building behind me. They also don't know where he is or who he is, but they insist that they are making steady progress in identifying this shooter. Providence police have released those surveillance videos you just showed, Harris, and they were taken at 2 p.m. Saturday, just 2 hours before the shooting. Police don't know why this primary person of interest was walking around. The man is seen wearing a dark beanie, a surgical mask over his face, and a dark two-tone jacket. Meanwhile, there is growing frustration about this investigation. Yesterday, 24 FBI agents were searching for evidence in the snow, bushes, and shrubs on the same street where the gunman is believed to have escaped.
Why would you be now looking in the bushes for something on Waterman Street 2 days later after it snowed?
So I just answered John the same question on how investigations, they turn and lead you in a different direction. We might have used all our energies in the first few days to investigate something, and here we are now heading back to that same place to continue to investigate, and that's why you saw that, because the investigations change on a daily basis.
Today, we spoke to a recent Brown graduate who was visiting a friend inside the engineering and physics building not 30 minutes before the shooting.
I think the main thing is just the lack of communication. I think for me, that's the main thing. For instance, the only reason I even knew there was a shooting is because my friend got the alert. I wouldn't have known. So I think that's my main point of concern.
The Brown University siren alert system did not go off at the time of the shooting. These are 3 strategically placed speakers around campus. They send out an alert tone and a voice message. Again, questions as to why that did not go off. Harris?
Well, how did they get the word out? I mean, you heard that young man. It must have taken some time for him to hear it that way.
Yeah, so there were text messages or there were alerts sent out on the Brown University system. But I'd imagine because he was a recent graduate, he wasn't a recent student, so maybe he didn't get it. And there was also 311 messages. We all, those 311 messages, you have to opt into those messages, and some folks didn't.
Yeah, it's like a club, an emergency club. Good to see you. Always great reporting. Thank you, Brian. This headline from the New York Times today: everyone's on edge. Days after a deadly shooting, a community is in a standstill. Chris Swecker, former FBI Assistant Director, is with me now. First of all, learning that the siren alert system failed somehow. I mean, what does that tell you about that lack of communication and the mood on campus, as you might imagine?
Yeah, well, I do security assessments for colleges and universities, and you often see that they don't have a worldwide or global notification system. They often don't drill it once a year or twice a year. And sometimes through attrition, as students come and go, which is a high turnover, they just don't update it. So that's one issue. The other issue is that we often find that they don't have enough cameras on college campuses. They have an issue about privacy and that sort of thing. And thirdly, they often don't secure their classrooms and their buildings with key card access or some type of restricted access. So there are some things here that they're going to have to go out, do an after-action report and make some corrections here and make some updates.
Well, you're absolutely right about those cameras. 800 of them, we're told, at least on campus. So we knew more video would come. Let's look at some of the video that police have just released. I want to get all of your top-line expert thoughts on watching this. What do you see? Chris?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I was looking for a video. First of all, they're doing they have done an intense neighborhood canvass, and having worked many bank robberies, the neighborhood canvass often reveals a lot of things. People notice strangers in their neighborhood. That video shows him in a residential neighborhood. So my guess is that they're looking he was probably smoking and he probably tossed something in the bushes. And there's a vehicle somewhere. So somebody had to notice him walking through the neighborhood, and possibly they have a vehicle now. They have video that's decent. It's good enough for an identification for someone who actually knows this person. If you don't know this person, you're not going to have much to work with here. But if you know them, with a $50,000 reward, I think there's a high likelihood that good, credible leads will come in off of that. A third area is the rounds that were pushed into the 9mm weapon. When you load a magazine, you use your thumb and forefinger to push the bullet into the magazine. That's a potential for fingerprints and DNA. They have, from what I understand, they have at least 40 shell casings. So out of that, they may have a fingerprint, or at least a usable fingerprint that they can run through the FBI database.
I want to concentrate on this video, which I know you have seen. He's not, like, at this point, he is kind of walking through the neighborhood, but the part where he's in front of that home, it would appear, or residence of some kind, with the gates, he's kind of pacing back and forth at one point, just kind of going back and forth, going back and forth. And you mentioned, here it is. Here's what I wanted to show you. He kind of stops here. He's looking at something. Now, we don't have his point of view. He puts his hands behind his back. He's got some, like, relax, maybe. I don't know. What's your take on it?
It looks like to me like this was before the shooting. It looks to me like he's killing time and waiting for something to make his move or do what he's decided to do. That video comes from a Ring camera. It's good enough to show his mannerisms, which you pointed out, that his build, his clothing. There's enough there to work with. And you can tell, though, that maybe he's indecisive at that point. But it looks like he's just killing time in the neighborhood before he goes into the classroom.
Yeah, depending on where they are in this huge storm that just hit the East Coast, it would be interesting because it's still frigid. If you had footprints anywhere near there, you would be able to retain that. You can also, in one of the shots, see somebody walking on the opposite sidewalk. So somebody may have seen this guy and didn't even realize that he was out there. That was in that next shot that we show you. We're kind of putting all these videos together on a loop for everybody to watch. Let's get to this next point. The FBI is sharing some chilling new information on a foiled New Year's Eve terror plot that centered in Southern California. 4 members of what authorities describe as a violent anti-government group are in custody and charged with planning to blow up multiple locations. They are also suspected of plans to target immigration enforcement agents. So they want to go after ICE. The FBI says those suspects had already had enough material to make complex pipe bombs. They plan to hide them, maybe test them out in the desert. They had them in backpacks, ready to detonate them at midnight as people were ringing in the new year, because this plot was all about December 31st. Video evidence shows the 4 people in the middle of the desert last week, apparently in the final stages of building and testing the explosive devices. Law enforcement also found these disturbing signs declaring death to America, death to ICE, long live Palestine. Here's the Assistant U.S. Attorney for California's Central District.
They want to send a political message. That is what domestic terrorist groups do. They use violence to advocate for terrorism. And in fact, if you look at their posts, they think that peaceful protests are a problem. So they want to advocate violence. They're a very violent group. They want to scare people, and they want to change policy. And after they attacked the logistics centers, their next goal was to attack ICE agents and ICE officers because they thought it would scare agents from doing their jobs. So that's the type of thinking they have.
And yesterday we took part of that live, and he said they would kill as many people as possible and then scare everybody else. Your take, Chris?
Yeah, this group, even though they look like a gang that can't shoot straight, I mean, it takes me back to the 70s when we had the Weather Underground and a lot of other left-wing groups out there that had the same look to them, but they were lethal. They were robbing banks, killing police officers, setting off bombs, and they were mostly left-wing groups, socialist groups, anti-government groups like this. So I think there was a really good intervention here. You want to take action before something bad happens, and in this case, the FBI did their job in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they caught them really red-handed out in the desert testing their bombs. They didn't need to wait any longer. They needed to take action.
Turtle Island Liberation Front. the TILF. Ever heard of these guys?
I have not. I guess they're referring to the U.S. as Turtle Island. Not a big group with a lot of followers, maybe 30 or 40, actual followers.
Oh.
But, that doesn't matter. I mean, they can be incredibly lethal.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we appreciate you reading up on them as well. Also, the Brown University situation. Great to talk with you today, Chris Swecker.
Thank you.
So from David Spunts reporting to Brian Yanis back on the ground in Providence. And what more can we say right now, Brian? Hello.
Well, Bill, Brown University has sent a message to the students saying that they understand their fear and anxiety given the fact that there is a manhunt at the same time that this community is just beginning to mourn. In fact, here's a live look now at a growing memorial of flowers, teddy bears, letters left outside of the engineering and physics building where this shooting happened. People are frustrated here at Brown, asking, for instance, why the university's emergency siren did not go off at the time of the shooting. 3 strategically placed sirens on campus should have sent an alert tone and a voice message. We spoke to a recent Brown graduate this morning who was visiting his friend in the engineering building less than 30 minutes before the shooting.
I think the main thing is just the lack of communication. I think for me that's the main thing. For instance, the only reason I even knew there was a shooting is because my friend got the alert. I wouldn't have known. So I think that's my main point of concern.
And as police release these new surveillance images of their primary person of interest, not everyone received the 311 local emergency texts either, because you have to now opt into that program to receive those messages. Providence's Mayor Brett Smiley is defending the city's response.
The police response to the initial call was swift, timely. We don't believe there was it could not have happened any faster than it did. And so I can't speak to, honestly, don't know a lot about their alarm system, and you'd have to ask them about it. But in terms of our response, it was nearly immediately.
We're learning more about the 2 students murdered. 19-year-old sophomore Ella Cook from Mountain Brook, Alabama. She's the vice president of Brown's College Republicans Club, where she was known for her bold, brave, and kind heart. And 18-year-old freshman Mohammed Aziz Umarzokov, who had immigrated to the U.S. from Uzbekistan and had big dreams of becoming a neurosurgeon. He was helping a friend study, Bill, inside of that classroom at the time of the shooting. There are no words. 7 other students are still in the hospital recovering from their wounds. Bill?
So unfortunate and so unreal. Brian Yanis, back to you with more developments. Thank you. On campus. Police chasing a new lead at Brown University, and frankly, there doesn't appear to be a lot of new leads here. Releasing new surveillance footage showing a person of interest in Saturday's shooting. What that reveals as the search intensifies yet again. So here we roll into a Tuesday. I'm Bill Hemmer, live here in New York. Good morning, Dana.
Good morning. Good morning to you. And I'm Dana Perino. This is America's Newsroom. So the news continues. We're getting some more answers on a couple of things and still waiting on others. So police are looking for this person in connection with the shooting that killed at least 2 people and wounded 9 others. Investigators describe the suspect as 5'8", and they say that's a stocky build of a guy. The FBI announcing a $50,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest.
So now that lack of an arrest is prompting a lot of frustration in Providence. As you can imagine, police say they're doing everything they can in their power to bring this search for a killer to an end.
We're going to continue to collect evidence, and if it leads us to something to that nature that's going to be extremely helpful for us to identify somebody, we'll be the first ones to put it out. What I can tell you is that this individual definitely targeted Brown University.
So Brian Yanis now back again today on campus with the latest from Providence. And Brian, what do we have? Good morning there.
Bill, good morning. Investigators still don't know why the gunman chose this particular classroom inside the Barris and Holly Engineering and Physics building behind me. They don't know where the gunman is. They don't know who that gunman is, but they insist that they are making, quote, steady progress in identifying the shooter. Let's take a look at these new videos. Providence police releasing new surveillance videos showing the clearest pictures yet of their primary person of interest walking nearby at 2 p.m. Saturday, just 2 hours before the shooting. Police don't know why he was walking around. The man is seen wearing a dark beanie, a surgical mask over his face, and a dark two-tone jacket. He's just walking almost casually. At one point, he stops and turns and looks around with his arms behind his back. The Attorney General says new videos are coming into authorities at a much faster clip after the weekend.
It's critical that we reconstruct this man's movements both before and afterwards. My hope is that we will eventually have that pattern. But when you ask staff why are they looking in particular areas, where he was and what his movements are developing as we obtain additional evidence.
The FBI says the man is 5'8", with a stocky build and considered armed and dangerous. Police have not provided a motive, and contrary to an eyewitness who described the gun as long and big, police say the shooter used a small caliber 9mm handgun. They do not have the weapon. The FBI has sent more resources to assist in this investigation on the ground. Yesterday, for the first time, we saw 24 FBI evidence response team members conducting grid searches at the scene and across the street, searching through the snow, the bushes, shrubs, dumpsters, and garbage cans. We saw them pick up several items: an empty glass alcohol bottle, what appeared to be a piece of blue plastic or a glove, anything that could perhaps have been tossed or touched by the shooter. Now, days after Brown University canceled final exams, projects, and exams, and essentially encouraged students to go home, Brown University is now asking students who were inside this building behind me the day before and of the day of the shooting to come forward for police interviews. Dana?
Okay, Brian,
Bill?
hang on one second here.
Brian, I just wanted to ask you one thing, because Jim Garrity writes in the Washington Post today this headline. It's an op-ed piece saying that an infuriating wrinkle in the Brown University shooting, that old buildings can have new security cameras installed. You would figure that no matter which direction the shooter fled in, he would have passed by at least one camera that could have gotten a glimpse of his face. But you told us something just before the show that our viewers should hear.
Yes, and that's right. So this engineering and physics building is actually on the edge of the main campus, to across the street where we saw the FBI looking, and those surveillance videos that you're seeing are actually on streets that are more residential. So it's possible that this gunman did not have to walk on the main campus, throughout the campus, for instance, where there would have been more cameras just to my left, to get to that building. Did the shooter know that this engineering building was unlocked during final exams? Did he know that this old building didn't have the cameras? I mean, that's part of the investigation. Yeah. But this is a residential area. Those cameras that we're seeing are ring cameras from people's businesses and homes.
Yeah, we're told it's a small campus. You can walk across the entire campus in about 10 minutes' time, which means the home surveillance cameras become more and more important in this investigation. Brian, thank you so much. Brian Yanis on campus there. Thanks.
And a Fox News alert here. Police and officials in Providence, Rhode Island, they're holding this update on the deadly mass shooting at Brown. Let's listen.
Just a little while ago, if you were here and do not have that video, you can see Camille or Julie, and they can send that to you while we're reporting. Additionally, Camille and Julie are your contact to be on the press distribution list to be advised of future announcements. At this time, I'll introduce Providence Police Chief Colonel Oscar Perez.
Thank you, Mayor. And so as the Mayor stated, we're about to show you a video. If we can have the IT officer play it.
They should have the...
Okay. All right, so what's happening right now is they started the press conference and they have this 6-minute video, and what appears to be happening is, for the press gathered and then for your benefit, they're playing the entire video, but there's no sound in the video, so we're just going to be, I
I guess, narrating a little bit as we look at this subject. They said, how many? They said it was multiple cameras that they saw him all day long. So they're piecing this together, and the FBI providing this. Anybody else want to comment here?
I'm excited. They got a new signer. Did you see that?
I did see that.
Yes, they needed to give the other guy a break.
Yeah, he
had
really
worked.
put himself out
He was
there.
exhausted.
I think he gave himself carpal tunnel after yesterday's
Yes.
press conference.
But I came up with this rule. It's called the Gutfeld's Law of Shrinkage.
Okay.
That all information can be distilled to 5% of its volume. And you learn this at these press conferences. Here we go. What's happening?
Well, that might have been the end of the video. Greg, hold on to that shrinkage.
Thank you, Joseph. Let me just say that if you don't have these videos, please let us know. And the reason we have shown these videos, there's a purpose, right? So as you can see, they're enhanced photos, there's enhanced video footage. And so we're asking the public to ensure that they can see them. They can see here that you want to follow the body movements, the way the person moved their arms, the body posture, the way they carry their weight. I think those are important movement patterns that may help you identify this individual, which is extremely important. Another thing that we're going to ask the public is if you have any type of camera system, including Teslas, in your property. In this video that you just saw behind me, it all comes from the residential block of Waterman Avenue, Power, Ives, and Hope Street. And it's those residential areas that we're asking the public to look, if you have any camera systems or any Teslas, like I mentioned, that you look at that footage and that you can reach out to us and please provide us anything that you have. And we're asking you to go back at least a week to do that. And the reason for that is because on Saturday night, the date of, we actually learned that this individual was in that neighborhood at around 10:30 in the morning. We also know in this profession that many criminals will case out an area weeks and days prior. And so it's important for us to ensure that we can have you look at that and help us. And the reason for that is because our offices, our agents are looking at terabytes of data. And we're looking for a moment that is shorter than somebody taking a breath. It's incredible hard work to do that. And so we're asking the public to assist us with that. The other thing is the tip center. We have been receiving hundreds of tips. However, we're about close to 200 actionable tips that we're still conducting investigations on, which is incredible and is important. Again, keep in mind that this video footage is extremely important to us. And one more thing here that as a reminder, please remember that the number that we need you to call is 401-272-3121, as well as the link that the FBI provided, which is fbi.gov, Brown University shootings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel. Now we'll hear from FBI Special Agent in Charge, Ted Dux.
No, thank you, Mayor, and good evening. My name is Ted Dux. I'm the Special Agent in Charge of FBI Boston. On the heels of this tragedy, the strength and resilience of the people of Providence is a powerful reminder of the bonds that unite us. The men and women of the FBI, along with the law enforcement team standing before you, carry the victims with us as we work around the clock to bring the individual responsible for their injuries and deaths to justice. Today, the FBI is working with Brown University to do everything we can to provide services to those impacted by this horrific shooting. The FBI has almost 30 victim specialists, special agents, and analysts from all over the country who are here in Providence to support our survivors, the victims, and their loved ones. The FBI Victim Services Response Team is one of the many specialized FBI assets that have been deployed here to assist. The toll this type of tragedy takes on victims and their families is immeasurable, and we ask everyone to respect their privacy at this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Special Agent. Next, Attorney General Peter Nerona.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a lot to add other than that from my perspective, I think the investigation in a case like this, which is a challenging one, is going really well. On the third floor of this building, there are dozens of agents, detectives led by Providence Police, prosecutors from my office, working to put together, and what you're seeing is just a portion of what they're working on right now. So they are literally, because I have seen at least part of it, the shift changes late at night. I think Rhode Islanders should take confidence in their work. They are veterans of what they do.
They're smart, they're professional, and they're getting the resources from the mayor and the governor that they need, the state police as well, to get this job done, and I'm confident they're going to be able to do that. We just need a little bit of patience, as hard as it is to say that in this really horrible context. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Governor Dan McKee for an update now.
Thanks, Mayor. And right off the top, we're just making sure that the state is supporting Providence and Brown University, and then working with the FBI as well as our state police and the Attorney General to continue to provide information to the people in the state of Rhode Island. My information is that recently, today, we've met with all the university presidents in the state of Rhode Island. We know that we want to start a working group that will talk about enhancing the safety issues. And you'll see shortly that we'll be doing the same thing in terms of the mental health issues. And I think that's important as I'm out and about. We're hearing a great deal of anxiety coming from families and students and the general public. And that's one of the reasons why our state police has supported the Providence schools with presence as school begins and school ends, in support of the mayor and his efforts to support the schools.
Thank you, Governor. We're also joined tonight by Brown University President Christina Paxson.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to begin by thanking the many law enforcement agencies who continue to work around the clock on this case. It's very impressive. I also want to thank the mayor and the governor for their continued support. The primary point that I wanted to address before we get to questions is that Brown is deeply committed to the safety and security and well-being of our community. And I've been deeply saddened to see people questioning that. We understand that as time goes on, there is maybe a natural instinct to assign responsibility for a tragic event like this. Anxiety and fear is very natural, but the shooter is responsible. Horrific gun violence took the lives of these students and hospitalized others. And it's deeply sad and tragic that schools across the country are targets of violence. Brown is no exception. We are cooperating fully with law enforcement, and again, we thank the multiple agencies that have been working so hard day and night with increased patrols to keep our campus safe and to investigate this horrific shooting. Thank you.
Thank you, President Paxson. I'll give a couple updates on behalf of the city, and then we'll take your questions. First, as has been discussed many times, we continue to have enhanced police presence throughout the city of Providence to help bolster the confidence and provide a sense of additional security to our residents. Today, we were aided by neighboring municipalities in Central Falls. Supplemental officers. We're grateful to our neighbors for sticking up and standing up with Providence. The state police continues to be an incredible partner, and I thank the governor and Colonel Weaver for their partnership. Providence Public Schools remain in session. Friday is the last day of school before winter break. Spent some time at our schools again today. As has been the case in the past, the schools in the area of Brown are having regular police presence, and because of the assistance of the Rhode Island State Police, we've been able to provide additional police presence and coverage to other schools in Providence, and we thank them for that. When I was at one of our elementary schools this morning, the faculty were having a brief meeting before kids started to arrive. And in discussion with some of the teachers, I asked how they were doing, and one of the teachers said what I think a lot of us are feeling. She said, it's hard, but I'm putting on a good face for the kids. We need to be here for them. And I think that's how a lot of our residents feel right now, which is that we are taking very tentative steps forward, but we're doing it for one another. And so I do want to thank our educators at this time. They're being asked to go to school right now. Our principals are asked to be going to school right now for the sake of the families and the kids. And at that same school, there was a second grader literally skipping to the front door because he's a second grader, and he doesn't know everything that's going on in this scary world right now. And so the strength of the adults has allowed that little kid to skip to school this morning, and so I want to thank all of my fellow residents of Providence for putting on a strong face for the sake of others at this time. There were questions yesterday, and so I'll also just give a brief update on the health status of the survivors. If folks will recall, there had been 8 hospitalized. 1 has since been discharged. There had been 8 hospitalized. 1 has since been discharged. The 7 that remain in the hospital, 1 is in critical status, 5 in critical but stable status, although healthcare providers report that they are improving, and 1 in stable status. Those are the 7. 1 in critical, 5 in critical but stable, 1 in stable status, and 1 discharged since the last time we made comments about their safety and recovery from the podium. Now we'll open it up to questions.
Nuevamente repetir un poco de estos videos, en qué áreas se están concentrando, dónde quieren que las personas vean esos videos y cuánto tiempo antes incluso quieren que reciban o revisen esos videos.
Yeah, so the question was if I could just repeat what I stated earlier in English as far as what occurred here, the reasons for the video, and what I was requesting from the public. So, estamos pidiendo al público verdaderamente que el video lo que hicimos fue que lo aumentamos para que vean la manera en cómo camina la persona, cómo mueve sus brazos, los movimientos que tiene. Eso es muy importante para que de pronto nos ayuden a que ellos se identifiquen a esta persona, importantísimo. Lo segundo es que estos videos fueron tomados más que todo en una área residencial que incluye la calle Hope, la calle de la Waterman Avenue, la calle de la Power Street y la calle de la Ive Street. Entonces es importantísimo, estamos pidiendo al público que identifique si tiene sistemas de cámaras, también como vehículos de los Tesla, que tiene ese tipo de data, para que nos lo mande a nosotros, importantísimo para nosotros verificarlo y que vayan una semana atrás del incidente. Porque hay una información que tenemos que esta persona a las 10 de la mañana del sábado fue vista.
Chief Ferris, you said that you believe this person was in the neighborhood at 10:30. Clarify, you believe that was at 10:30 the morning of the shooting, and what do you believe he was doing there at that time?
Correct, and we have video footage of that, and we believe that he was actually casing out this area to commit the crime. That's a pattern that criminals do, and that's what he was doing.
Chief, yesterday the FBI described the person that we've been seeing in these images as a suspect. Today the language seems to be person of interest. Can you clarify, do you believe that this person that we're looking at is your shooter, is your shooting suspect?
Definitely, he's still a person of interest, and we're still investigating that to be able to get that answer. But we strongly believe definitely he's a suspect in the incident and a person of interest.
In the back.
An MIT professor died earlier this morning from gunshot wounds. Does that incident have any potential connection to this investigation?
Now that we know of, no.
In the back, sir.
To ask you, yesterday we were wondering about this person's age. Now that we've seen more video, again, a couple of days ago, I know you were saying 20s, so some talk about 30s, but just to help people at home, people seeing this video, do profilers or anyone in your department have any better understanding, a closer idea on his age? And the second part of that question is, can you now confirm that he has no connection as a past student or as a past staff member at the university?
So the first question, I'll tell you that when it happened on Saturday night, obviously it was chaos, and there was a witness that stated that he might have been in his 30s. At this point, we're still just looking at the picture. We haven't identified ages or anything to that point. And as far as whether he's a problem student or anything, we don't have any of those answers, no.
Colonel, in one of the new videos prior to the shooting, this person of interest is seen running. At this point, do you have any inkling why he's running? Where he's running to?
Yeah, we're still investigating that, but what we do know is definitely that he was casing the area. And again, that's what criminals do prior to committing a crime.
Chris.
It appears that the FBI and PD, according to what I'm looking online, look like they're releasing separate videos at separate times. Are you guys still coordinating, or how are they doing?
We are. You got to understand that there's a lot of people upstairs, as the general stated earlier, and we're trying to ensure that we do this right job and collect the evidence and that we need, and we want to make sure that everybody has especially you guys in the public. One thing that we want to make sure is that the community is safe, well-informed, and stay confident in the work that we're doing. So yes, there was a video that was released, but we also were working on another video, and the purpose of this his press conference is to ensure that the public can see those videos showing movements, like I stated earlier, the way the person walks, the way they carry their weight. That's the importance. And so our video, the second video that we showed was the one that we needed to show the public.
Just
please.
in terms of cameras inside and outside the engineering building, are those working at all? And if so, why not release some of those videos?
So the video that we showed you came from inside the building, and that's all we had at the moment. That was all we have at this moment. Correct.
Inside the engineering building, though?
I'm sorry.
It's from the outside.
From the
I'm sorry.
outside, so do you have video from
Yes.
inside the engineering
Both
building?
inside and outside. I'm sorry, just outside. That's all we have, not inside. No, I'm sorry, just outside.
Are they going to be released anytime soon unless from inside the building?
That was released already. That was the outside of the building. We released that.
Yeah, let me just jump here and clarify. Okay, so there is, for those of you who've been with us before, and I understand not all of you have been, there is video inside the building. There are cameras inside the building. What we have released to you are videos of this person of interest. So I want to be clear, because later on there may be other videos that get released in the course of a prosecution, likely will be at some point. They show things like chaos after the shooting. What they don't show is this person of interest, and so that's why we haven't released those videos, okay? What you do have are videos from a camera outside of the Brown building and other cameras from around the neighborhood that the good men and women in law enforcement located and have put together in this montage. And to your question, Chris, there are two versions of that video, but the bottom line is they, as I understand it, they depict the same thing, and number one, and number two, the agencies are working very, very well together, as I think the special agent in charge would agree.
Attorney General, so you've got a follow-up, and then we're going here.
Just to clarify, there's no clear video of the suspect inside the engineering building.
I just said that. That's correct.
Now, can I just ask as well, further to the surveillance footage that you have received? I've been here since Saturday speaking to people who are living in the residential buildings around and in the businesses, and many of the store clerks there have told me it wasn't until this morning that the police have actually come to ask them if they had anything that they could offer, any CCTV or any evidence that they could provide. Why has it taken 3 days for these people to have the police come to them to ask them for assistance?
As I stated earlier, it's a residential block that includes a lot of homes, a lot of different camera footage, and it takes a lot of work in the sense that there's a lot of terabytes that we're looking at in order to be able to analyze it, pull what we need. And sometimes it's just a moment that we need, and it's shorter than somebody taking a breath. So it takes a lot of work. And then so once that leads us to a next location, and so we move strategically, we have to pull the video, download it, analyze it, investigate it, and then move forward. It takes time.
Mr. Attorney General. Yeah, I just want to jump in there too, because I think I want to clarify in a sense what the chief is saying, is that you start in the grid in the first instance that's closest to ground. It takes a lot of work to canvass that area, and then you build out as you learn more about the path of travel. So it's entirely possible that tomorrow we'll be canvassing places that we haven't canvassed yet because we're working out with the resources that we have.
Attorney General, Dan, go ahead.
We have a question and a follow-up, right?
Yeah. Yes.
My first question, Attorney General, to follow up on my colleague, this is the question I asked on Saturday night, which is, so there's cameras in the hallway, but they don't show the suspect, or Brown is not releasing them, or you're not releasing them to us. How does a multi-million-dollar school not have a bunch of cameras in the hallway?
So let me try to explain that. So as President Paxton knows, there was a major addition put on that building within the last 5 years or so. That is a modern building attached to a much older one in the back. So it doesn't come as a surprise to me, at least, that there are cameras in the newer part of the building. And there is video footage, okay? So there's the back part of the building, old part, and front part, new part. The shooting occurs in the old part towards the back, out towards Hope Street. And that older part of the building, there are fewer, if any, cameras in that location. I imagine because it's an older building. So as students are fleeing the area of the shooting into the new part of the building, there are cameras in that brand new building that show that chaos. But the only video of the presumed, anticipated, suspected, however you want to define it, person of interest, you have it. We would release it if we thought it would be helpful in identifying this subject, because we are relying on the press and public to help get us there. There would be no reason for us to hold it back. We're looking for the best image we can.
Dan, got a follow-up.
Attorney General, thank you for explaining that because it really clarifies it, although I'm sure some people watching would think a multi-million-dollar school with a huge endowment could afford new cameras in an old building. That's my statement. Here's my question. If he's casing that area, Colonel, like you said, he had an intended target, which speaks to the motive. Did he have a target to kill one of the two people that were killed?
We're still investigating it, Dan, and it's something that we're trying to get the answers as well. So,
Patrick.
Yeah. For President Paxson, have you reviewed any communications to Brown before the shooting that revealed any kind of threat of any kind to anyone at Brown? And then since the shooting, I believe some web pages for students or faculty have been taken down. Is that a response to any external threats to anyone in the community?
We have been working very closely with law enforcement to provide them with all of the internal to Brown information that they need to do this investigation. It's their investigation. They're the professionals. So we're providing information. We're not in the job of reviewing it for them. I know nothing about web pages being taken down as part of this. It's the first I've heard of it.
In the back, yep.
You want people to feel safe. Can you say this person of interest is no longer in Providence, no longer in Rhode Island? Are they out of the state? Do we have any sense at all?
I can't speak to the investigation, and if there's a follow-up for either the general or the colonel, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer it. But I'll restate what I've said several times now, which remains true as another day passes. Since the initial call came in at 4:05 p.m. on Saturday, we have not received, and this is now updated with another 24 hours have passed, a single credible, specific threat to the city related to this event.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.